Welcome back to Inner Peace, Better Health. I'm your host, Sayan, and today we are talking about something that almost everyone struggles with but rarely names out loud: people stress. The stress that doesn't come from deadlines or tasks, but from interactions, expectation, tone, energy, or just being around the wrong person at the wrong moment. To help us unpack this, we are joined by someone whose work and lived experience bring a lot of clarity to what calm actually look like. Meet Matthew Dickson. He's the founder of Minded.net, the first global platform connecting organizations advancing mental health care in developing countries. He's also a mental health advocate, a survivor with deep personal resilience, and someone who's learned a lot about staying steady, even in environments that would overwhelm most people. So, if dealing with people drains you, triggers you, or leaves you feeling scattered, I believe this conversation is going to give you tools you can actually use. So let's get into it. It's an absolute honor to have you here with me today, Matthew.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate that.
Wonderful. And Matthew, I'm glad that we are having this conversation today because I think most people, okay, before we get into people, for me, people stress is something that almost everyone deals with. I see it around as with me as well. And I think we have all had days where one small thing from someone just sets us off, right? So I would love to start with that moment that when someone feels triggered or emotionally overloaded by others, what's the first internal cue that you believe that they should pay attention to?
Well, first off, I just want to say to your listeners, if you're embarking on a journey of trying to make yourself better physically, mentally, socially, I just want to congratulate you. That's a great journey to go on. Not everybody does that. And maybe you're far along in this journey looking for more tips and tricks. Maybe you're just first starting out. I just want to congratulate you. That's a wonderful thing to do. Your mind and your body are terrible things to waste. So I read a book called Verbal Judo, The Gentle Art of Persuasion by George Thompson. And verbal judo is what police officers are trained in to deal with people with words, not weapons. And I've read a lot of books on people skills, and that book by far has changed the most of what I actually do in real life. So there's a few parts to it. The first thing is because they say, when people come in, when psychologists have people come in to talk to them about their problems, often what they talk to them about is the people in their life giving them stress. So the first step to verbal judo is staying calm. If someone comes at you with harsh words or being aggressive in any way, we often want to rise to match that. And it's like heads butting against each other. You just don't really get anywhere. It's just a lot of fighting back and forth between each other. If you're able to stay calm, and when someone's upset, oftentimes they're stressed themselves, and in Verbal Judo, the book, George Thompson, the author, says that so many people, verbal abuse is rampant in society, and so many people don't have anyone to listen to them. So many people have often heard words of encouragement or praise, and stress builds up, and then it just bursts out, and you could be the unlucky person to bear that. So instead of fighting back, arguing back, your tone of voice is so important. With your spouse, with your family, with your friends, coworkers, anybody, your tone of voice. So I'm constantly monitoring my tone of voice to see if there's any sort of sense of anger towards the other person in it. He says you don't have to even like everybody you see. Sometimes people may just rub you the wrong way, but he says you have to respect them as human beings, and you can't treat them with anger or being upset or toxicity in any way if you can help it. He says verbal judo isn't perfect. Sometimes you're the one getting upset, but so staying calm is the first step. Watching your tone of voice, and the second step is finding out where they are, and talking from their frame of reference. Being able to read body language, have emotional intelligence, and using your own voice. Finding out where they are. And when you find out where they are, the third step is talking from their frame of reference, not yours. So often I would walk into a room and say whatever I had to say, not paying attention to where everybody in the room was. What was their frame of reference? Where were they? Would somebody be needing a hug right now? Is somebody upset? Is somebody lonely? Is somebody thinking about their grocery list? So when you're able to see where people are more easily, you can talk from their frame of reference. And if someone's upset, let them talk. He says so often police would come into a confrontation and guns would be drawn. And he says when you really don't have to do that, a lot of times people just simply need to vent and get things off their chest. And if you can do that to someone by staying calm, talking from their frame of reference and letting them vent, you can just de-escalate it. Whether it's an argument with your son trying to get him to take out the garbage or a coworker or whatever, simply staying calm. Another thing that really works is pauses. Simply pausing and not feeling you have to respond to every single sentence said. That's been very helpful for me. And as far as staying calm yourself and not getting upset about things, one thing that I found works is, it's by Eckhart Tolle in his book, The Power of Now. He talks about happiness hangovers. So often we'll get upset, we'll be excited about something and just we'll feel so good about life. But he says when you feel that good about something, what can happen is so many hours or a day later, whenever, you can get into a happiness hangover where you get the blues. You're not so excited about life. He says, but between those highs and lows is what he calls joy. It's like a baseline joy. He says sometimes you'll be driving down the highway in your car and you'll just be joyful. You'll just be happy. You won't be too happy, like a drunk kind of happy, and you won't be low. You won't be like a hangover kind of low. It's just a baseline kind of joy. And he says that's what we should aim to get into. He says, some people say, I'm just happy looking at stuff on the wall. I don't need to have all this excitement and stimulation around me. I'm just happy existing. And the way I've used to get into that sort of baseline joy is by when I first started doing it, I would pay attention to, like, am I feeling too excited now? So I try to lessen my emotions a little bit. And you'd think, well, Matthew, that's kind of counterintuitive. Like if you're feeling really good, why wouldn't you want more of that? Well, is it the right kind of joy? Is it something that I'll have to pay for later? So I've tried to just sort of not get as excited about things if I can help it. So that's the way I did it. And I've been doing it for many years and it helps. And sure, sometimes I can get down on things and stuff, but I found I've lessened out the highs and lows from my life. It's not perfect, but that's what I've done. For me, I love dancing. I absolutely love dancing. My emotions just go off the charts, just so intense feelings, the chemicals that go through my body, just unbelievable. But I find those don't give me a low afterwards. It's that, so I can have very intense emotions, joy, but I don't get the hangovers afterwards. So
Yeah, got it.
yeah, that's something. Yeah.
That insight really, I think, helps listeners recognize the subtle beginnings of stress, before it starts to snowball. And honestly, I think most of us only notice stress when it's already blown up, right? So catching it early, that's huge. And it actually makes me think about those moments when everything around you is kind of like chaotic and you're trying to stay level. Now, you've already talked about that, and I think the first thing is obviously trying to listen, trying to understand, but most importantly, trying to observe people around you, right? What is that they're trying to tell you? So I just want to ask you this: what has, because you have navigated through some high pressure environments and profound personal challenges, what has this taught you about the most about staying calm when people around you aren't?
Yeah. So there's another book that's one of the top books I recommend called The Survivor Personality by Al Siebert. And he says people who survive go through horrible things. He studied people who went through the Holocaust, natural disasters, cancer, alcoholism, all sorts of things. and how they
Mm.
not only got through it, but thrived on the other side. And he said, survivors will often ask the question, what's going on here? And there can be things that sort of appear in front of us that seem more logical, that 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 appear to be what's going on, but there can be other things behind the scenes. What are people really thinking about? Do people have hidden agendas here? Are they trying to manipulate us without us knowing it? A lot of the times we'll be in a situation and we'll think, I don't understand what's going on here. Like, what just happened? Why did that person say that? Why was that person mad? Where did that, I just don't, how did they trigger me? How did they get under my skin? And you don't
Mm.
understand what's going on. And asking that question, what's going on here, and using your intuition sometimes can help.
Right,
Just
right.
listen. Yeah, there's I don't know if it's the CIA or the FBI in the States. I was reading a book about one of them, and they said they actually find that if you can sort of tune into what people are thinking about better, if you just really
Mm.
sort of soften your emotions and sort of pay attention to the other person, you can sometimes get sort of little insights into your head, little flashes of like an image or a word or something that might be something they're thinking about. And it sounds a little bit too good to believe, but that's I can get little flashes of insight from people sometimes. Think then sort
Yeah.
of maybe that's what they're thinking about, just little hints. It's intuition sort of going around. That's something that I use sometimes.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And Matthew, I can give you an example. So I think like when you're driving, say to your work, early in the morning, and there's some car behind you that is constantly honking at you, right? Uh, I think instead of getting annoyed or triggered, you could ask yourself, why is this person honking so aggressively? Maybe he's getting late at work, or maybe there's something important, maybe someone he loves is admitted to a hospital. So it's always changing that narrative to, why is this person doing this to me, to why that person might be needing to do that in the first place, right? And I think that shift in perspective is ultimately the key, in staying calm in all those kind of situations. And I really appreciate the way you said that, because when people hear stay calm, they automatically assume it means to be naturally zen, or don't react, or be the kind of person who never gets shaken. And most of us just aren't, I think, built like that by default. So it gets me thinking about another huge piece of people's stress, I believe, that shows up for almost everyone, which is around expectations. And uh, so let me ask you this, Matthew. How do you suggest people in the first place to deal with those kind of pressure without um, shutting down or slipping into people pleasing?
Uh, by expectations, what do you mean?
Right. So, let's suppose we are in a work environment where you're considered a high achiever, right? And people are looking up to you to perform at a certain level, right? Um, so in those kind of situation, how do you break free that kind of environment where people just want to uh, you know eh, make you deal with those kind of pressure, if that makes sense?
Okay. One thing that I've found is helpful. I mean, even people who are high achievers have other people above them. There's always someone higher than you. And one thing that I found very helpful is I call it the 1 second pause method. And people think we can get running around so quickly, responding to things, reacting to things, and we can feel like a little marionette with everyone, like little pulling our strings and making us dance, like jump now, jump, jump, keep doing this, keep doing this. And one person said in a book I read said that we can get rushed too often and get stressed by it. There's nothing necessarily wrong with rushing if we're the one doing the rushing. We can go ahead and do things quickly and everything if we want to. Think of like a soccer player who's out in the field rushing around, having the time of his life, but doing things super quickly, rushing, rushing, trying to get the ball and avoid people. That's not really stress. You could say that's fun. But
Hmm.
when it's against our will, when we're pushed too hard, that's not fun at all, at all. And one thing that I've found that helps is the 1 second pause method. That's what I call it. And you can think, well, Matthew, I don't have, like you just said, I don't have half an hour here to do some meditation and Zen. Like, things need to get done now, like right this second. And I argue, well, people have at least 1 second. Most people, unless you're in some high intensity situation, you've got 1 second to pause and just stop. So
Yeah.
maybe it's 5 seconds or 10 seconds, but that gives you, so what I do is I simply just pause. If I'm at, usually a lot of it is with my hands, like, I have to do this. No, I have to do this. If you're late for work and you're trying to, get your breakfast ready before you get out the door, if you're at work and you're trying to go through things or hand somebody this or that, I often just pause for 1 second, pause my hand, or if I'm walking, just pause for 1 second, just slow down. And you can barely even notice it really. And what I find is it gives control back to me. Instead of people telling me to do things, I'm in control of my body, even for that 1 second. And I keep doing it 1 second, then another second here, then another second here, just to remind me I'm the one walking, I'm the one moving my body, and I'm the one in charge here. Even though there's other people below me and above me, I'm in charge of me, what I find is with that 1 second pause is it makes me feel more like I'm doing Tai Chi, like I'm more in control of my body. That's the feeling I get. It's like I'm just more in control. And that's what meditation and yoga teach, is to take control over your mind and your body from outside stressors if you can. And that 1 second pause is helpful for me. Maybe you don't always think to use it. I don't always think to use it, but when I do, it reminds me I'm the one walking here and doing this. And I find that quite helpful.
Yeah, indeed. That's a very grounding way to look at how we can break through those kind of high stress environment. And honestly, I think it's something everyone deals with, right? When you look around, often without even realizing it. And Matthew, since you're a global mental health advocate, my next focus shifts to what have you observed about different cultures, like how differently do they handle interpersonal stress?
So right now I've got a website, mindaid.net. It helps people with mental illness in developing countries. It's basically what I do is I found the groups helping people with mental illness in developing countries. So I've put them all on one site, my website, and I steer people towards those websites to help to donate to those websites. So I don't do the actual work. I'm in Canada. I've never been outside of Canada that much. I've been into the States a little bit. So there's a lot of things I don't know, and I want to learn as time goes on. I'm not the best at knowing what other cultures are doing, like you said, and how they respond to those sorts of things. So that's not something I can really answer. Maybe hopefully when I learn more about what's going on, and I want to learn more about this too as the years go on. So I do want to mention one thing here is that for staying calm, one thing that I found helpful is think of your emotions as like a thermostat, like in your house, like to keep the temperature the same. I think of it as in my chest. When I sort of monitor my emotions, not getting too hot, not getting too cold, like a thermostat. I sort of think of it as in my chest. I'm constantly monitoring my voice, my thoughts, just to make sure I'm thinking good thoughts and not thinking anger towards somebody. I'm monitoring my voice, so I'm giving out an angry tone of voice. I'm monitoring my emotions inside of me, like my sense of peace. I always try to hold on to that sense of peace, that sense of joy. And that's one way I think about it, as like a thermostat in my chest, and sort of trying to keep it level, the same temperature as best I can throughout the day. So that's
Very
something
practical.
that's really cool. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. And that really, puts this into perspective. And I know so many people who can relate to this, because even when the moment is over, the stress doesn't always go away. And Matthew, I want to get into something really quick, really practical for someone who feels this way, is that when stress from other people lingers long after the interaction, and say if you have taken something personally, right? How can someone reset their nervous system quickly enough to get back to a calm baseline?
What I do is I often think, well, what just happened there? Why was I so stressed by that? What happened? And a lot of the time I find I just shut things down for a while in a break. I mean, especially in our digital world these days, we're bombarded with a lot of stimulation. And
Mm.
one thing that I've found is simply not doing anything. Just there's Brian Tracy, I think he's a sales person who teaches sales. He's got books, and he says when he goes for lunch in his car, he drives to a park and sits there, eats his lunch, and does nothing. He just sits there and does nothing. And I do that sometimes just to let my brain process stuff that's happening. And I don't sort of really plan it out. Brian goes on his lunch regularly to do it, but I just sort of do it when I feel I need to. It could be just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe it's an hour, just sort of spacing out and letting your mind sort of wander. And sometimes I'll come up with things I've forgotten about. Oh yeah, I need to do that. Or sometimes I'll be thinking about why, like you say, like why was that person mad at me? What happened there? I'll try to understand and sort of wrap it up into a little nice tidy package, so that way I can sort of put it behind me and just sort of think about it a while. Like what happened there? Sort of like analyzing a sports game. You know, what happened? What did we do wrong? How can I do better next
Right.
time? And Olympic athletes. There's an Olympic athlete who went to the actual Olympic Games, and she said in the games with like the opening ceremonies and just the village and so many people around, so many things happening. She said she went back to her room and she turned off the lights, made it totally black in there, totally dark, and she just closed her eyes and did nothing. She just had to come back down from the overstimulation. So that's something that's been very helpful for me is just time out. There's simply a time out from doing things and just letting your mind sort of wander. And sometimes when I think about things, I'll come up with great ideas. Like, oh, I never thought about that. I'll process other things. It's sometimes a mishmash of things going through my brain. It's like, well, why was that person stressed at me? Oh yeah, I need to get those groceries today when I go there. Or thinking of other things. It's just sort of free time. Nothing really structured, just free time. That's something that I found very helpful for me.
Beautifully framed, Matthew. Your answers sort of create a sense of empowerment, showing listeners that calm isn't really a momentary state. It can become a sustainable way of living. So Matthew, thank you so much for breaking that down so clearly. What I'm really taking away from this conversation is that calm isn't just something that you feel for a few seconds and lose again. It's something that you can actually build into your own life with small, repeatable actions, right? That's empowering for anyone who feels like they're always getting knocked off balance. And I think that's the perfect place to start wrapping up, because it really captures the heart of this conversation about um, calmness and not getting stressed in high pressure environments. So just before we wrap this off, Matthew, I would love to ask you on behalf of everyone who's listening to this right now, is what's the best way to reach out to you?
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me on the show. And yeah, my website is mindaid.net, mindaid.net. My name's Matthew Dickson. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, a whole bunch of social media. And on my website, mindaid.net, there's a page there called Mental Health Tips. And that is my best list of the best books and resources that I've found for mental health overall. I have schizophrenia. There's resources there for schizophrenia and people skills, all sorts of things. That's the quickest way into my brain from 20 plus years of reading books, like hundreds of books. I've found some that are just very, very neat stuff to help you get better mentally. And you'll never get 100% mental health. You never will. It's like trying to score 18 on a golf course, a hole in one on each hole. You'll never get it. But if you but you can minimize what you'll have. There are people, you won't be this uber transformed person who's got 100% meditation and you're just totally zen for the rest of your life. You could be 90 years old and still have some stress in your life. It's about minimizing the stress in the first place and also how fast you can bounce back from it. so that it doesn't impact your song. Those are things to work on. You'll never get it totally, but the fact that you're trying is amazing. So I just want to congratulate you on that. That's a wonderful step. So many people need more calm people in situations, and you may not be calm all the time, but if you can get calm more of the time, that is unbelievable. So congratulations.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for that, Matthew. Those were some kind and uplifting words from your end. And dear listeners, for you, I will be attaching all the details in the show notes for you so you can check them out anytime that you want. And with that, we hit today's mark on this episode with Matthew Dickson. So, to everyone who's listening to this right now, if there's one thing to take from today, it's this: staying calm isn't about avoiding people or forcing yourself to stay positive. It's about learning to notice your early stress signals, protect your energy, and return to yourself before things spiral. It's about knowing people's perspective before you take things personal. You don't have to fix everything just today. Just choose one small shift. Maybe a breath before reacting, a boundary that feels honest, and a reset ritual that helps your body settle. If this episode helped you feel a little clearer or a little more grounded, share it with someone who needs the same reminder. I'm Sayan, and this has been Inner Peace, Better Health. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you on the next one.